Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sandbox Wednesday stream. I'm Alex Flores, aka KamiSawZe, joined here by Mr. Freeze himself in the icy cold flesh. LukusIsRight. How you doing, Lucas?
I am amazing. I'm happy to be back, but man, oh man.
Do you want to tell people what you did while you were
I
gone?
went to Alaska.
Yeah.
I've been in Alaska for the past week, and my wife and I went on the adventure of a lifetime. We hunted down Aurora Borealis, and we got to see it.
With a bow and arrow.
We hunted it down with a bow and arrow. I actually took it prisoner. Yeah, I ransomed it back to its family by sending a thumb. It was really it was very graphic.
Yeah.
No, it was so much fun though.
I was going for more like, and now Lucas is a constellation, like Greek hero style, but you can go with the thumb.
No, yours is way better. Let's rewind. Can we edit? This isn't live, is it?
No, I don't think so. It's not live. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. But yeah, we went hunting the Aurora Borealis, and we saw that a bunch of times. We were there for 5 nights, and we saw it 4 of the nights. And the last night we were there, we also went dog sledding, and the dog sled guide, he was telling us that it was the most amazing aurora he'd ever seen. He's only been in Alaska for like 3 years. So to hear him say that was really cool. It was mind-bogglingly beautiful. So we met reindeer, we went dog sledding, we went snowmobiling, we hunted the aurora, and it was we had a ton of fun. It was me and my wife were just talking about this, and we kind of like categorize the trips that we've taken over the years, and our favorite trip has always been our honeymoon, and we're both agreeing that this was better than the honeymoon. It was just so unique, and I mean, we got to hang out with puppies like a lot. And I mean, I know that's not your thing, Alex, but little husky puppies are so fluffy and amazing, and they're just it was so wonderful.
I can deal with the husky, I think, if they're fluffy enough.
They're super fluffy. I'll send you some pictures. They have to be
like fluffy and smart, and I imagine in the snow you probably can't smell them too much.
My jacket still smells like puppy.
Oh,
so I love that smell, though. It's like one of my favorite things ever. It's like the puppy smell, and it's just beautiful. But I sent you a picture. I took this with my. Go on.
Oh, wait.
You did have what?
Is this something I can show on stream?
Please.
Woo! Oh, why can't it zoom out?
I took that with my phone. Like, no night filter. I mean, there was a little bit of a night filter, but it wasn't like a time delayed shot.
What the phone does. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was visible to the naked eye. Like every other night that we were there, we saw it, and it was like me and my wife would be like, "Is that the aurora?" Because we started calling them sky smudges. Yeah. We were like, "Is that an aurora?" And we take our phone out, and we do the time lapse night shot,
and I'm sure that you weren't sure when you saw this in front of you. You're like, "Is that it? Is that a smudge?"
No.
There's some green stuff in the sky. I don't know what that's about.
We opened up. We had closed there's like a window, and we had like blinds on it. We opened up the window, and it was just like the whole sky was just lit up green, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" What?
Thank you for the raid, Binkoverse, and also thank you for the sub, Lori G783.
Yes.
I wanted to let Lucas gush a little bit because trip was cool.
Bursting at the seams.
All right, so that's what Lucas has been up to, like just letting us languish here without him. We had no fun while he was gone. He had all the fun up in Alaska. Nothing interesting happened here while Lucas was gone. Nothing at all. But if you want to see all the uninteresting things that didn't happen, you can check out our VODs on Twitch or watch the replays on YouTube. We did the best of 2023 Sandy Awards, featured by the council, hosted by Panda and myself. We might have had a little bit of fun without Lucas that day.
I was sad I missed that.
we gave out 10 Santa Wizzies. And if you're interested in grabbing a Wizzy for yourself, if you go to discord.gg/Wizzyverse, WIZZYVERSE, we are currently running a giveaway that ends, I think, Saturday at midnight or Friday at midnight. It'll say how many days is left on the giveaway. You can enter each day. I'm giving away an OG Wizzy the Blue.
What?
Last sold for like 0.3 ETH or something like that. Yeah, I've only got a few of these. So I'm not really. I'm actually saving pretty much the rest of them. I'm saving for actually building games, for the council. So, yeah, if you're interested in winning an OG Wizzy the Blue, if you already have one, you can't enter. I'm sorry. There's only a few
Good to
of
know.
them. Yeah, if you already have Wizzy the Blue, we're going to be doing other giveaways starting next week. But yeah, Wizzy the Blue OG NPC. And yeah, we got a couple other news things, and then we're gonna just jump right into Game Maker because there's a lot to go over. Panda's pick of the week is Roach Uprising by Greater Work Studio. Maybe we'll play this on Saturday. I don't.
Yes, please.
Try to. Oh, no. I almost forgot. Saturday. What? Saturday is the Avenged Sevenfold Game Jam Awards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, surprise!
Huzzah!
So we're gonna be playing that. Make sure you're on the latest version of 0.9 if you want to play those games. I'm trying to think. They should still play, because there's a special thing where they added Avenged Sevenfold music to the Game Maker. So if you don't have that special version of the Game Maker, I don't think you'll hear the Avenged Sevenfold music.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it works on the game client side. Maybe I'll run some tests and see if it works correctly or not. But at least the game itself should still play. So lots of great games in that competition. But we'll be listening off the top 10 and the grand prize winners on Saturday with a guest appearance by Panda Pops. Sorry. I had like a spicy sandwich for lunch.
Oh, how was it?
Well, actually, technically it was breakfast, and I ate it at 3:30 p.m. It's been a weird day, and so now I'm getting like these it's like half hiccup, half burp, but not like painful. Sometimes those are painful, and this is just kind of just more just like an inconvenience and kind of interrupts me talking. Anyway, what's roaming plus infinity equals expensive? Oh yeah, data. Like, what are these
what
equations? What are these mathematics in the chat going on here?
All the maths.
So we won't play Roach Uprising next Saturday, but maybe we'll play it on a different day.
Someday soon.
Yeah, I haven't played this one all the way through, but I've seen it so many times since the initial game jam it was in, and it's always really impressed me with how cool it looks. That I just really want to jump into it, but there's been a lot of other things going on. And
I've really been wanting to see that one, actually. I've seen his clips on social media, his posts, and everything about it just looks incredible. And I've jumped into it, but I haven't actually played any. I haven't played through it extensively, and I really want to.
Yeah, it looks really good, and it came, I think, like high in the top 10 in the game jam that it was in. There might be other Roach experience. I know that there's other Roach experiences too, but this one specifically just looks really cinematic. Makes me think of like why can't I remember the
Honey,
number?
I Shrunk the Kids?
Well, I guess that a little bit, but I was thinking, it's not the 100, is it? What's the Spartans? What's the movie called? I can't remember the number. What was it?
300?
300. Why couldn't I remember that number? I was thinking like the CW show, The 100, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think it's just 300. It's not the 300, right? It's just 300.
Yeah, it's just the number 300, yeah.
But that 100 was getting stuck in my head, and I was coming up with the wrong name, and I'm like, I know that's not the number. Anyway, it always made me think of that. Huddle Hill just subscribed at tier 1. They've subscribed for 4 months. Thanks, Huddle.
What does that mean? Okay. What is a tier 1 subscription?
They get more expensive as you go up in tiers.
Okay.
I don't think that we're doing it, but subscribing at different tiers could unlock different things. It's like a level of support, kind of like Patreon, gotcha. I think.
So what you're saying is Hoddle Hill is super fancy.
y-
Gotta
y-
respect it. Gotta respect
sure.
it.
I think tier 1 doesn't mean like top tier. I think it means the rung 1 and then tier 2, 3, whatever. But
Oh, so you think you're better than me?
I'm not subscribed to anybody at any tiers right now, which is dumb because I have Prime, which means I have a free subscription to give to anything, and I always forget to activate it because I don't think the Prime one automatically renews.
It doesn't.
So you have to select it every single time. So I mean, I can go to Twitch right now and I can say continue sub. Tier. I don't see the option for with Prime. Maybe I already. I think I already subscribed to somebody else. I think I already used my Prime on something. So I don't know. I've said this before. I'm not great at watching streamers. I much prefer to be streaming. I love streamers. I love what they do. I just have like so many of my own things to do, and if I'm watching a streamer, I'm not getting any of them done. So I just don't. 2,000 points to another giveaway form challenge. I don't know how many points are left for that.
Can I see if I go into?
It might say if you go to click it, but it'll announce if it gets done. I think Dr. Metaverso, I think, still needs to ask me a question to have me fulfill my duties as Sensei Alex. Hype train incoming. I don't even know what to do with that. I don't know what that means. It's a thing. I've seen it happen before.
Another giveaway form. It's 100% complete. 15,000 of 15,000 sandcastles have been donated by community members. Boom, baby.
Woo. Okay, so we're doing 2 giveaways then. We'll be giving away we're going to do it on 1 form though, just for ease. So let's go ahead and drop that form in the chat then.
Absolutely.
We're going to be dropping 2 forms in the chat. One is the giveaway form, which is going to be for Wizzy the Orange's singed hat, as well as.
And this will be the other giveaway form, so everyone can do the other one, or how are we doing this?
We're only doing 1 giveaway form. But there's going to be another form, the one that you see up on my screen right now, that I haven't been talking about yet. We need a party. I think that's what we're doing right now with the giveaways. We're gonna give away an orange hat, and then what else do? Let me pick another hat. I'm just gonna pick a hat that I have available. Let me see what I got.
So I'm gonna add a question to the giveaway form. It's gonna say, "Have you already won an orange hat?"
And he'll check. So be honest.
Yes.
Let's see. I think I have hats in my featured section. What have I got? What do I have? What could I give away? Let's see. Oh, I've actually got more of these than I expected.
Oh, or what?
Wizzy the Green's lucky hat. We haven't given one of those away in like a year. So let's do one of those.
I'm into it.
So so go ahead and fill out the form, and we'll roll for 2 winners, 1 for orange, 1 for green, but we will check to see that they don't already have that there, to make sure that we're giving away to somebody new.
The first form that I'm putting 2024 on, and that feels special.
All right.
I'm super excited to be back. I'm not gonna lie. So if I start screaming or just randomly yelling during this stream, please just let me know.
All right. So we've got that giveaway form in the chat. Indeed.
Not yet. I'm doing it right now.
So before Lucas gets that in, there's this other form, not the giveaway. This one is the VoxEdit contest feedback form. So Panda is looking to find out what you think about the VoxEdit contest. Do you participate in VoxEdit contests? How often do you use VoxEdit? Between GameMaker and VoxEdit, which is the main software you use? What contests would you like to see more of? Longer contests, VoxEdit shorts, VoxEdit poster contests where we do a 2D
I like
image.
that a
So you
lot.
have to
That
do
was
like
so fun.
yeah, you can make it like a full render. You can put in other elements. You can do typesetting and all that cool stuff. So, more beginner category VoxEdit contests, just more contests in general. Do you like the idea of somebody winning assets being placed in a special VoxEdit contest collection on the marketplace? So like a space to gather all the winners. What would make you want to participate in VoxEdit contests more? Other feedback on the contests and changes you'd like to see, and what do you currently like about VoxEdit contests? And you can have it send a copy to you if you want. So that is the news. Was there anything else in Panda's weekly updates? What else we got? We already talked about Game Jam Award ceremony on the 6th. Normal Saturday stream time. Oh, there is going to be a registration for another Game Jam soon. So from Saturday onwards, was I not supposed to say this yet?
No, yeah, you were.
It says mention from Saturday onwards, and today is not Saturday. So, but keep an eye out for it anyway.
No, she's saying mention from Saturday onwards to be checking the events page, I think. Registration for another Game Jam open soon. Mention. Tell people to keep an eye on the events page for more information on this. So we don't have information on it. We just keep an eye out starting on Saturday, I think is what she's saying.
All right. And winter event is still open until the 22nd of January. Get all of that tasty EP. There are plenty of experiences to earn it from. You do not have to complete all of them. I think I'm at least halfway through the EP. Events, seasons, greetings. Not quite halfway. I've got 87 out of 200, and I've only done, I think, like 8 of the experiences out of the dozens that are there. So, if you're struggling,
when does that close out again?
On the 22nd of January. That is.
Oh, okay. Did they extend it?
I don't know. They might have. It's the winter event, so it's still going to be winter long after this event closes. But yeah, there's tons of EP in this. So if you're getting stuck on an experience and it's frustrating you, by all means, like make a ticket, like report, like, hey, we're having trouble with this one, for whatever reason. But you can certainly just
trend along.
Yeah, just go like to a different experience, and you'll be able to earn the EP there. Don't get stuck like I gotta get all the EP from this experience because there's lots of other ones to choose from.
Have fun with it. Is the when you get mired in the, I know there's some completionists in the audience. Alex may be one of them. So for him to give advice like this,
who are you talking about? Not. Yeah, no, it's me.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But just have fun with it. Don't get mired on that one point.
Yeah, absolutely. If there was, I can't remember which experience I was playing, but I missed collecting something, and I beat it, and it was done, and I left, and then went, oh, I didn't grab all the things. I didn't collect all the things for the end of the experience, and I'm like, you know what? It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Wait,
I'm just
didn't
gonna go back and
do
play
it
later.
Oh.
No, I'm saying not to do that. Don't be like me.
But you're so amazing.
Don't be like me in that.
I'm torn. Okay. Thank you for being specific.
All right. So we want to go through 0.9. I want to do kind of like a crash course on what we talked about last time. So we're going to go broad strokes. I'm not going to dive into the specifics of what we did last stream yet. I'm just going to go over what is the difference between messages and variables and rules and objectives. And we're just going to kind of update our vocabulary because there's a lot of new stuff going on here. Sorry, my lighting today is really weird. All right, so in 0.9, we got a big change to our interface here, as well as the rules system, which is just like a whole new ecosystem of functions and features for the game maker. It has made things that used to take like a dozen different objects, like bouncing messages back and forth around each other and like spawning things and deleting things, basically becomes like a simple 2-button clicks and like defining a couple numbers. It's amazing and super powerful, but probably overwhelming if you are new to the game maker or if you are new to coding. Because really what we did with this is introduce visual scripting, which means that we can write little bits of code without actually writing code and learning syntax and all that stuff. You're doing the features of what coding does with some handy dandy rules. So we used to call wasn't it called quests before?
Mm-hmm. I believe
it was called quests before, and now it's objectives, and it still says quests here. These function pretty much the same. They've got the same features that they did before. They can require messages to unlock and messages to start, and they will send a message when they complete. There's different completion criteria. This part didn't change too much, except for the fact that it got divided off into its own little section here. So that's objectives. Player still has pretty much all the same stuff. For the avatar settings, setting up equipment, you can allow players to start with their own equipment, which means if they were in an experience where they were holding their equipment before, when they jump into your experience, they'll still be holding that equipment. I haven't really seen that in action yet. I'm curious to know how it's going to work when combined with using an experience's equipment. I imagine that'll get left behind in the previous one. But cool to see that feature there. And then we've got controller, which we still have just the adventure RPG controller setup. And we've got the behavior values for our avatar. Big change: swimming enabled, oxygen enabled, fall damage enabled. Those are all new features. You do have to click them on if you are editing an old experience. So you may have both of those disabled. When you enable swimming, you have the option to enable oxygen or not. And fall damage, you can enable. That's a new one. I think it's over 8 meters of a fall, I believe is what we figured out it is. And you get more damage the higher you fall from. So a fall
it's
from
incremental.
A fall from like 8 or 9 meters, you might make like lose 1 or 2 HP. A fall from 30 meters, you'll probably die, depending on how much defensive items you have boosting your health. Components, again, we just have health. But if you're a keen observer, you might notice there's some stuff in here that we haven't seen before. And we'll get back to that.
Like what?
We'll get back to it.
I want to talk about it now. It's down the road. Okay, fine. I'll be patient. I'm sorry. I'm
getting a little parched here. Gameplay. This is where we see a ton of differences. So start screen, kind of the same. Ambience, kind of the same. Camera, pretty much the same. Game rules. This is visual scripting for the sandbox. This is what we've been talking about for years. There's going to be more features on this. There's still a lot left to do to make this a full visual scripting platform, but this is the foundation, and it is awesome. So we can full screen it with this little button here, and we can use middle mouse button to grab and slide it all around. We can also scroll up and down, and we can control scroll to zoom in and out. Super useful for navigating this. And you can see that we've got quite a bit of space in here. We've got scroll bars on the side. You can see just how much real estate there is in this whole thing. There's quite a bit. However, we do kind of have a recommended limit. I'm not entirely sure how this is measured, but if I hide myself, there is a little smiley face and a little face to let you know when this board is starting to fill up with too much logic and your game might start running a bit slower because you're just you're giving too many commands to the CPU. Where'd I go? All right. So in the rules system, we've got a tutorial button, which will bring you to docs.sandbox.game, which is our highly informative document of all things related to Sandbox, not just the game maker, but also VoxEdit, the dashboard, minting, the whole ecosystem, sand and staking and contests. And it's a wealth of information. It is Wikipedia for the Sandbox, basically. So
A
definitely,
veritable cornucopia of knowledge.
absolutely. So take advantage of that. Then we've got presets. These are presets. They're like bundled sets of rules where you can just, you want to shop, you can click the shop button and it'll just generate a whole thing like this full of options for a shop. And you can customize it any which way you want. But these are just to kind of get you started with a few cool things and give you some good examples. Then we've got rules. These are the different programming functions that we have. There's a bunch of them, and we're going to go over what each of them is in a second here. But we've got math rules, we've got time rules, we've got comparison rules, change variable rules, and game screen rules. Variables is this list of all the different variables that you've made or that was put there automatically by a preset. Or maybe if you're working in a template, some of these were already in the template. A variable holds information. That's what it does in coding. So a variable can hold a number. It can hold a true or false statement. It can hold a phrase or a word. If you took, I'm guessing, I think most of our audience is old enough to have taken algebra at some point. But in case you don't remember, in algebra you can define a variable as like x or y, and then you can say, oh, x is equal to 2 and y is equal to 1. So that is a variable is the letter, and then the number is the value. So variables hold some sort of value, whether it's a number or a word or a true or false. We can make any ones that we want by clicking the plus button, and we can select what type it is, whether it's numbered, text, time, or true and false. So if we select number, we hit next. We can define if it's global or local. Global meaning that it goes to the server and it will affect all players. Local meaning that it's just for the current player. So you could use them in a single player. Global and local doesn't matter as much for like a single player game, but in a multiplayer context, global would be for something that affects all players. It's synchronized on the server. Local, it's only happening on the certain player's computer who is making this variable change at that time. Each player has their own value in a local variable. The name, that's like your X or Y or Z or whatever you call it. You can call it lives, like the number of lives. You could call it health. You could make your own health system if you want with this. Whatever you need to name the variable. Then the value is the number that you set for it, or it could be the time or the word if you use the text variable, or the true and false. HUD settings, heads up display. You can select whether it shows on the screen, where it shows on the screen, and what order they show in on the screen when you have multiple variables visible. And then name on the HUD. You don't have to use the same name as you do for the variable name. I'm not entirely sure that you need to make those different, but it's whatever you want to make it. It's your game. So if you want to have if you want to call it lives as the variable and then call it hearts on your heads up display, you can do that. Whatever you decide. And then you click create and it will make a new variable. Like we already have lives from when we were setting this up last Saturday. And then rankings. This system is kind of limited at the moment. We're not really going to dive into this. I haven't had time to explore this myself, but a feature that is going to be available to landowners and creators very soon is being able to make leaderboards, so that way you can define, based on multiple variables, who the top scoring players are. And that could be the number of lives they have left at the end of the game, as well as who played the fastest. Or
So,
Hmm?
question.
Hmm.
So, can we set it up so that it's simply a life loss counter? So, I think I remember the other day when we were playing, you you hit 0, but it kept going. It was like -1, -2. So, could you set up the leaderboard to just tell you who lost the most lives and the time they finished in?
Yeah, you could. So you could do. Um, I would say like you don't want it to go negative in that case. Like we did eventually set it up so that way you would get a game over if you ran out of lives. But
Just a death counter.
you could do a death counter, or you could say
Okay.
attempts or whatever you want to call it. Retries, any name that you want for it. That's your variable. So every single time the player dies, that counts up, and the bigger that number is, the lower they are on the scoreboard. You could
I
that's you
like
could
it.
set it up that way. So um
So, get
yeah,
good.
so get good.
Yeah.
But you can sort it by multiple variables though. So you can have your main criteria, which is, say, the number of lives. Who beat the game in the least number of attempts? Well, there's probably going to be several people who do it all in one attempt. People are competitive that way. So
Mhm.
how do you sort those winners? Well, you could have a second variable that is points. How many points, or how fast did they beat the game? How, like, they did it with the fewest number of lives and the fastest. And you could define which one of those is the priority. What is it, the time that's most important,
Oh,
or
okay.
is it the number of lives? So that I would do it by lives first and then by time, because time is going to have a lot of different results. And if somebody has the fastest time but they have like 300 attempts, is that really as impressive as doing it in one attempt and maybe doing it like 5 seconds slower than the next person? Like I think the attempts is more important in that case, but it's up to you as the creator to define what is your scoring criteria. And then when you publish these games, um, can we have access to the ranking feature for testing? That would be, I can't give access to that. That's I think the testing for it is like for some limited selection of people, and I don't have authority to grant that for extra people. Um, 300. I have played lots of games where I've made over 300 attempts, and
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
you've seen me do it on stream where I did 300 attempts on like a single thing, and finally beat it through. But anyway, um, uh, yeah. So once you are able to have access to this feature, you'll be able to publish your game, and when players beat your game, or whatever criteria it is for showing up on the leaderboard, you will have that leaderboard available. And I believe when you republish your game, so if you unpublish it and then publish it again to force it to update on the map, it will prompt you if you want to reset the leaderboard or not. I'm not sure if that's available yet or not, but that's planned if it's not already there. So that's the overarching new features. Oh, I should also point out that you can organize all of these rules in clusters of rule systems. So you can kind of organize these however you want. They will still interact with each other. Like if I like separate this one out here, it's still gonna work the same way. This is just purely for like hierarchy and organization. There
Okay.
may be some more nuances to the hierarchy that I'm not aware of yet, but we're still all in a learning process. This tab from underneath Lucas, you can actually get a nice overview, because you can't zoom out to see everything all at once, but you can pull this out, and it's important to always label your stuff. So like we have the heads-up display and user interface. You can click this target button to jump to it. Start game, we can jump to that one. Wave controls, we can jump to that one. You can duplicate the whole thing from there. You can jump to each individual rule card in that collection.
Oh, wow.
You can duplicate from there as well. You can also click the debugging button, and it will add it to the debug list.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, so that's something we took a look at before as well. So if we let's go ahead. We're going to open up gameplay here real quick.
I got one question for you.
Sure.
So from Go West 927, he asked, a 300. So that sounds like it will count every time you play, or is it just that you load, just the time you load in and then attempts over and over in one play?
It depends on how you define it. Because remember, one
Wonderful
of those
answer.
variables was time. So you can set up a timer, and you could. I haven't tried this yet, but I'm guessing you can probably just set it to reset a timer, because there's a whole time section here. Add, subtract time, pause time, set time value, start timer, stopwatch. I haven't messed with these rules at all yet, but I'm pretty sure that with a combination of these, you can have a variable that is your time. So you're not doing time based on, what we had before in the Game Maker is if you beat a game, it would show your time in like minutes and seconds. It didn't even show like tenths of a second. And that was from the time that you loaded into the game till the time that you got the victory screen. But with this, you can define when the timer starts. So you can have a whole tutorial, you can have a whole warm-up, you can have the player running around, and then they come to a gate, and you hear the beep, 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 and then everybody starts running, and then the timer is going down, and you do your 300 attempts, and then you see that it took 2.5 hours to beat, or you do your 300 attempts and you see that your successful time was 10 seconds or whatever. However you define the time to reset. Lots of power in there. Tons of stuff. So let's take a quick look at the debugging before we jump into what all the rules are. So we can do some stuff on screen here. We can display collision borders, which is pretty cool. It shows these little green boxes around assets to show that they have collision. You'll notice that the grass does not have a collision border. Neither does this skeleton on the ground, because collision was turned off on them. So if we set collisions, you'll see that there's now a very faint, it's hard to see because there's grass right there, but it's there. See a little faint green outline around the skeleton here. And we put him back to no collision, and it goes away. I'm trying to see
how
if
the
there's
grass
a different...
is growing up through the skeleton.
Yeah.
He'd been there for a while.
So it looks like there is... Or no, I think there's no color difference between collisions plus gravity or just collisions. So, you'll still have to check on like what's working with gravity or not. But that's okay. It's still very helpful to be able to see, to like have a glance and kind of look and go, oh yeah, there's collisions here. We can also render bounds, so that will show you the bounding boxes for various things. And then we've got the rules logger. Now this will show you the log from your previous play session. Actually, I think any number of play sessions stay in there until you hit clear. So if we go to our gameplay screen and we just want to see what is happening with our lives counter variable. So we open up our variables, go to lives. Actually, we don't put it in the logger from there. We would want to go to our rules hierarchy. We're going to go to our lives system, and we are going to go to life change and enable debugging on just the life change. You could do it for the whole system by clicking the top of the hierarchy there. See, it turns the bugs on, the bug icon on for all of those, or we can have it on just the one rule. And so now there's nothing to show yet because the game's not running, but the logger is going to collect information as we play. So we are in here. We see our lives up on the screen. That is the system that we... Yep, what's up?
I was gonna say, do you still have it set so some of the blocks are like instant kill blocks?
Yep, that's what the lava's there for. It's very... I had it as this like mossy grass before, and I kept on accidentally touching it when just trying to like run between these blocks, and insta dying, and yeah.
That was fun. That was a good day.
Yeah, it was good for a laugh, but it made it harder to test. So now we've got it up here. Now you can also see the debugging system while you're in gameplay. If we press F2, you get the whole list right here on the left side. All right. So I've got this golden heart on the ground, which is like our little 1-up. So I walk on it, and we can see a message just popped up on the screen. Says life message activated, life change rule. It gave a timestamp and said changing the parameter global number variable lives value 3 by 1 result 4. So that means, as Lucas said, we now have 4. It shows what the name of it shows that it's a global variable, shows the variable name of lives, shows that it was a 3 and changed by 1 to now be 4. So it gives us all that info, and we can see that it happened when we touch the heart. And now if we stand in the fire or in the lava, we can see that it got changed by -1, result 3. You can also see that it changed on our actual life system. We're down to 3 now. Running lava again. It's down to 2. We see that we have a new message in our log. So you are now going to be able to debug your own games by seeing what variables changed when, which is a very helpful thing to do. It'll help you know when something worked the way you wanted it to, and also it's going to show you when things didn't work the way that they were supposed to. Now, I haven't figured out a way. I could probably like ask it to divide by 0 or something. I'm curious to know what'll happen if I do that. Hopefully it'll just throw an error in the log and say you can't do that. You know, let's find out. So we got our defeat. We're going to go back to the builder. And if we look at the debug logger, we can see all the times that the life message changed, and we can copy that information, which will give us something like this. So if we're having an issue with something, we can paste in there for future reference or to share it to somebody else. We can delete specific ones. We can also pin them and be like, this was an important one. I want to remember this result while I go and do some more testing. Let's see if we can divide by 0. Let's see what happens. I'm feeling spicy. In case you don't know, you're all on the internet. You should all know the joke. You can't divide by 0. That's the thing for math.
What?
It just doesn't work. You can't make 0 divisions of something. It's like not asking the question. You can't answer a question that hasn't been asked, right? Asking to divide by 0 is not asking it to do something. It's asking for 0 divisions of a thing.
Oh, okay. So you're just saying, hey, please don't do this, and we were like, all right, we're already done.
Right. The calculator just goes, okay, I can't, and we're like, good, you're not supposed to.
It just sends you the thumbs up emoji, and you're like, wait, how did you do that? You only got 1s and 0s.
So we're gonna say when we interact with this car, it's going to broadcast a message. Message broadcaster, edit logic. We're going to send. We'll send. Nope. And this is something that I learned today. Um, some of the staff that actually worked on this watched my stream from last Saturday, and they were like, "Alex, you goofed up."
Oh,
and
how'd you
now
goof?
I didn't do anything wrong. I just did a couple things a little inefficiently because I didn't realize I had some extra options.
Okay.
So, and I found out that you can add arguments to any message, and we'll
Hmm.
go over that. And you can change the broadcast type to rules and objectives. So it used to be you had to broadcast to all uh, to get your message to like talk to um, a game quest.
Okay.
And actually, I think we called them rules. I think yeah, we didn't call them quest, we called them rules. But it was kind of, our branding on the names was a little inconsistent, I think. But anyway, now you can broadcast specifically to the rule system, or to the objective, or to self. Like you, an object can send messages back to itself. We don't have to do relays anymore, because it used to be if you interacted with an object and you wanted the message it was sending to bounce back and hit the object you were interacting with, you had to put another object for it to say that to like have it basically like grab the hand and say stop hitting yourself. But now you can just hit yourself. It's cool.
Oh,
Um,
not gonna tell you how to live your life.
Yeah. Now there's no older sibling like grabbing your hand. You can just do it all on your own. You can totally fight club it. So rules will let us send the message only to the rule system. You don't have to send it to the whole game world. I don't know what the difference in efficiency that is. Like I haven't done tests to see how much more CPU it uses to like send to all. Those kind of things can be difficult to measure unless you have a very controlled setup. But sending it just to rules should be more efficient, however much it is, because the rules system is just a layer of like math going on. There's no objects moving around. It's just this gameplay board of awesomeness. And you are telling your message to go straight here, make no stops. You know, don't take a nap and let the tortoise pass you.
Don't do it.
Yeah, don't talk to any creepy wolves in the woods. Just go straight to grandmother's house, where the rule system is, where it is warm and there are cookies. So we're sending this message, nope, to the rules. We're going to send it once. We're going to wait for the player to interact. So we're going to do our interact message. And we are going to go back to our gameplay. Wasn't Grandma eating by the wolf? No, she was eaten by the wolf.
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't eating next to the wolf, eaten by the wolf. But depending on which telling of Little Red Riding Hood you read, the wolf sees Little Red Riding Hood and talks to her and goes like, "Oh, where are you going?" So it's like a story about not talking to strangers,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how the wolf learns that, oh, grandma's all alone over there. And the wolf goes like, oh, well, there's this nice beautiful shortcut this way with flowers. It's not the path that you know, and it's technically longer than the way you were taking, but that will give me time to get to grandmother's house to eat her and then eat you. And then a woodsman comes and cuts you out of my belly and you both survive somehow. Like,
It's
yeah, the wolf just
it's
swallows them
science,
whole. There's
Alex.
like
It
no
happens.
chewing. Yeah.
Nope, no chewing. Just like a duck.
Gim has hey, KamiSawZe, thank you very much for the Santa Wizzy. I really appreciate it. Couldn't thank you guys properly because it was holiday season and I had some relatives visiting. So unfortunately, had to mute the stream. Thank you very much. Love y'all. You're very welcome. Merry Christmas.
That was very nice.
I've made a promise that I'm going to hound people to get the tagging system fixed so that way Santa Wizzy and Wizzy the Golden show up in the Game Maker again. There may be some other characters that I'm not aware of that may get fixed in that process too. So hopefully we get that addressed soon. Pickaxe Master says a tutorial on how the broadcast type of messages could potentially affect performance would be neat. For example, if you broadcast to all, it will consume 0.1 FPS, but if you broadcast only to rules, it consumes 0.01 FPS. So, yes, that would be neat, but also you can't measure it that way because like FPS is dependent on so many other things, and we can't measure a fraction of an FPS. What we could do is we could measure cumulative effect on percentage of performance being affected on your CPU. So instead of sending one message to all and seeing how much the percentage on your CPU changes, you want to send like hundreds of messages to all constantly and see how much of a performance change that is on FPS or on really on CPU, because you'll probably see it spike in CPU. So that's really the way you would measure that, because doing it with just one message is not going to be a significant enough difference to see. And like if I look at FPS right now, you're going to see it's constantly fluctuating. These numbers are constantly changing, just flipping, just a small amount, but it's constantly changing because everything in the computer, I've got the stream running, I've got the game maker running, my webcam's going, my microphone's picking up stuff, it's processing things. There's operations in the background on your computer doing something. If you're using a traditional hard drive, it could be defragmenting. If you're using updates in the background, that's going to change things. So there's all these things that it's difficult to get a like clean, pure test to where you like isolate. Like we can't do like a large hadron collider experiment here, because like the point of that experiment is to isolate single particles and smash them together and look at the results in a very isolated situation, because like there's molecules everywhere. You're trying to find like one subatomic particle in a room full of air with magnitudes of trillions of molecules. Like I don't even know what to call those numbers. You're not going to find them. So you need to put it in a really isolated situation, and you can't really do that on a computer. You could do that with like a circuit board. You could do it with like one transistor or something to like measure those kinds of small increments. But when you're talking about something as complicated as a computer that has millions of things going on every second and all the different types of hardware, you would really want to have a bigger sample size. So you want to have a message being sent by lots of things all at once, and toggle between those options and try it at different amounts. So whether it makes a difference or not, I'm honestly not sure. I've been told that it should be an improvement to send it directly to rules. That makes sense to me, knowing that when it goes into rules, it's kind of like a single input. It's going into the rule system to like just deal with some math in a very like analytical, like graphing calculator kind of way. When it's going into the game environment, it's broadcasting that message in 3D space and like looking for all the assets that it could impact in the game 3D space. So I feel like going to the rule system is going to be an improvement. That totally makes sense to me from what I know about computers. But like I said, you need to do it a whole bunch of times and have it running constantly, so that way there's a visible difference in computer performance. Because if we look at the CPU, even, I'm not even doing anything in the game maker right now. I'm not touching anything. My hands are off the keyboard. They're off the mouse. My feet are on the floor. I'm not like using my elbow to move the mouse or anything. And you can see that you can see that the game maker CPU is changing a lot. It's going between 10.2%, I think it was, at 10.5%. It went down to like 9.4. So it's just doing that on its own. Off the mouse, you mean Mickey Mouse? We should have talked about that too in the news. Maybe we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
That's not super important. but it is important because I
is
know people are going to
interesting.
want. Oh, and people are going to want to make assets, and I should let them know that that's a thing that's doable, but there's conditions. Not legal advice. Also, like I can't protect you from getting sued. You can't come after me for this, but I can let you know from a moderation standpoint where our stance is for now. All right. So yeah, if we send a message a whole bunch of times, we'll see a measurable percentage difference in CPU. That's more than like a 1% fluctuation. We'll see something like maybe like a 10, 15, 20% CPU jump spike if we're doing a lot of it. And then if we switch it from all to rules, maybe we see that, oh, it's only a 5% jump instead of a 10% jump or something like that. That kind of thing can also vary based on your CPU architecture. Like I have an AMD chip, which has multi-threading. I don't know how much, I kind of doubt the game maker's fully optimized for multi-threading. But if you have like
multi-threading,
it means that my CPU has multiple cores in it that can process simultaneously.
Oh wow!
Versus a Intel chip, which has I think 2 cores usually, but they do hyper-threading, which is like they alternate between states where they multitask. So
Okay.
the Intel CPU tells like one core to do like 5 processes at the same time, like alternating between them really, really fast. And it does it at a higher clock rate. The frequency of the electrons going through is much faster. Whereas an AMD chip has actual separate physical cores that are doing that. I like AMD because it runs really well for multitasking. It's great for having a game running and a stream and a browser and music playing and like all these different things happening at the same time. Whereas Intel is really good for like high performance on one specific thing, like a game. That's why a lot of times streamers will have an Intel CPU as like what they're actually playing the game on at the highest quality possible, and then they'll have a totally separate desktop that's pulling the video the video stream to actually do the streaming on a separate CPU so they don't interfere with each other. Anyway, we're getting really far afield here, talking about nerdy stuff, which I love, but where were we going with this next? We're doing live system. We did debugging. We were going to divide by 0. We're going to see what happens if we divide by 0. It might break the universe. Let's see. So we're going to see what can we do with math. We need to go to our rules. We're going to grab a math rule. We're going to multiply a number. Oh, we might not be able to divide at all. If we have to do it by a fraction, we would just be multiplying by 0. We have no division. Okay, never mind. We can't do it. We could, yeah, because I can't tell it to be over 0. I would have to tell it to be a fraction, decimal, which I also can't do that. Yeah. Oh well, I can't divide by 0. They preemptively stopped me from doing it. So you can do division, but you have to do it by an integer. So you could say you take when we get that message, nope. Then we would take whatever number is from a variable and then multiply it by. Oh yeah, no, because we can't do a decimal point. We can't do division at all, can we? I don't think we can do. We could. Oh, if we multiply by a variable, the variable could be a decimal. So let's say we did a number variable and we said decimal, and our value in there is Can we only store integers as the variable? Wait a minute. Well, we could send an argument. I'm getting too complicated for something silly here. We should go over what arguments are. So I'm gonna explain what I did silly. Not silly. I think what I did was fine for the live system, but there were a couple of things which could make it a little more efficient. So what we did last stream is we made it so that way the player would send a message when they die called life loss, and that was done through our player controller components health component, and this message sent on death, we had it set to life loss, and we had it sent to all, and then realized that we could probably send it to rules. And then in our game rules gameplay, life loss would trigger this life change rule, and it would change our lives variable by -1. So at the start of our game, we have lives set to be 3 by default. So our variable lives, and then the value is 3. So when we first start the game, we have 3 lives. Then life loss would send, it would do math to change that by -1. So anytime we die, we get -1 to our lives variable, and the number goes down. And then if we pick up a heart, these little golden hearts here, our variable would go +1. And each time our life value would change in the game rules here, it would send this life change message, which would activate a comparison rule that asks, is the variable lives between 0 and 0? It has a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 0, meaning, is it 0? And if it's 0, then it would send a defeat message, which would go to our defeat donut here and give us a game over screen. And that worked fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It was a pretty simple system, and I felt it was very straightforward. But then somebody who works on the team that developed the rule system messaged me today and said, you know that you could do that with fewer rules.
Go on.
You could do it with just the 2 rules, the defeat one that checks if you have 0 lives, and then the math part of it that plus or minuses your lives, that can just be 1 rule by using variable or by using message arguments. So it only needs 1 message, and it only sends 1 message. Now it sort of worked, but there's a bug that prevents it from working. But it is more elegant, and it showed a part of the system that I wasn't aware of before, which is why I wanted to talk about this today, because I didn't realize that you could put arguments on any message that you make, and you can actually define a lot of things with it. We've talked a little bit about arguments before, back when they came out in 0.8, I think. And arguments were the things that allowed us to set like a time delay on changing the weather or the lighting. It let us, what else could we do with arguments? There were a bunch of default ones. Let's see the message broadcaster. All the ones that were yellow meant that they had an argument. So we could pause or play or stop. You could use this actually to kind of like fade between songs. Change enemy count. I think that's specifically for this experience. So when you make your own message and you define an argument for it, it will also show up as yellow. light color. We could fade between different colors of light using an argument. That was the fade time and what color we would set it to. There was a lot of cool things that we could do with arguments. But now, if we type any argument or any message we want, let's say Fwonk. Is that how we spell that? Fwonk?
WANK.
Was it? It was A.
One moment while I look it up. I believe it is
Fwank?
FWANK.
Okay.
Fwonk.
I can't remember if it's an O or an A. Not that it's important. But you'll see right above Lucas's head there are two options. We can add Fwonk, or we can add Fwonk with arguments. Argument.
Hmm?
And the add Fwonk is the same one that it's been for a while, the same way of adding it. But if we add with arguments, we get a new window. And we set the name of the message, and then we can add as many arguments as we want. I don't know the purpose yet of adding multiple arguments. I am sure there's a use case for it. I am not experienced enough with the argument system to know what scenario we would want multiple arguments, but the option is there, and I like knowing that I have it. So when we add the argument, we can select what type of argument it is. It can either be true, false, an integer, or a float, meaning it has a decimal value, or text. And my brain is already like humming with different ways that I can use this. So true, false is pretty straightforward. You can have an event triggered asking triggered by Fwonk, and it's asking, is this condition of Fwonk true or false? And you have path A or path B based on whether it's true or false when that message is triggered. So this can massively increase the efficiency of your messages, because you're not just sending the message Fwonk, you're also sending some information along with it to help the next process make a decision. So with true or false, you can do that. With integer, we can use our lives system, and we can say that when we lose a life, it sends a message of change life -1. And when we pick up a heart, we can change life +1. And we're using just the one message, change life, but our argument is saying it's -1 or +1, depending on if we died or if we picked up a heart. Float, being able to do decimals. This is where you could start doing some division. Like I said, I don't think we're going to be able to divide by 0 because we don't have an actual division function, but we could multiply it by a decimal. So if you want to divide something by 2, you multiply it by 0.5. If you want to divide something by 4, you multiply it by 0.25. So we can say, and I'm not sure how we use text yet. I still need to figure that out. But I'm excited for text because maybe we could like make passphrases, not like wallet passphrases, but just like,
no, I know
like
what you mean.
have like words in the messages. So like, it used to be if you wanted to do a password for
Maybe colors or numbers.
What about colors and numbers?
Before, passwords kind of had to be like either a combination of numbers or a combination of colors that you correctly selected.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah. Well, but I mean the logic behind it. There would be a whole ton of numpads behind the asset. So you're defining like this with an asker and this with an asker and this with an asker, and like you're still gonna need askers, but you might need fewer of them, because if we can do a text and we can have it spell a word, then maybe we could check if that word is correct instead of, oh, Vvox said text changes HUD text variables for now. Oh, is that the only thing it can do?
For now.
Can we not check if what the value of a text is? But that is useful also. So like as far as I know, okay. We probably can't add, if that's the case, then we probably can't add text strings together. The cool thing with programming is that the values held by a variable, because remember, a variable is like a container, and it holds a type of information, in this case a variable. Or actually, in this case, we're talking about the arguments of a message. So arguments almost become like a different type of variable that's connected to a message. We're sending a message, and the argument is like a sticky note tagged onto the message. And it's giving extra instructions besides just the message. But one of the cool things with variables in programming is that if you have a text string, you can actually add those things together. So you could say X is Lucas, Y is, and Z is right. And if you add XYZ, you get LukusIsRight altogether. We probably don't have that yet, so I was maybe getting ahead of myself. I haven't looked at all the things that you can do with arguments yet, but we're still learning. Cool thing to do with changing variable text on the HUD though is you could let people know like what wave they are in a battle. I mean, you could do that with numbers probably more easily. You could maybe define zones. So like if a player passes, you could like label parts of your map, like points of interest. Like we've had, like you can put signs and people can interact with it, and it says, oh, you're at the top of the Tower of Wonder or whatever. But now we could have a label that says where you are on the map while you're there. So you pass through a certain threshold, and it sends a message to update your location, and then sends that text to say which section you're in. You could say you're in zone 1, zone 2. You could say you're in the stairwell or whatever. You could do like what's the murder mystery game?
Clue.
Yeah. I almost said Cluedo, which is I think the British name for it.
Oh.
Yeah. I've been talking to too many Brits lately. Just Panda. One's enough.
She's the only one you need because she's so amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to use it that way to say, hey, we're in this area. Update the text to reflect that. That should actually be pretty easy to set up. Okay, we're gonna try to divide though. So we're just gonna divide, and then so you set the type of argument it is, and then you set the name for the argument. This is not the value of the argument. This is just the label that you're putting on the argument when you go to use it in other parts of your code, basically. So we're going to call this divisor, which is what the part on the underside of the fraction is, right?
Yes.
Is that numerator and denominator? Is that the
numerators on the top, denominators on the bottom?
Yeah, I think divisor though is when you're doing like a actual like when you're using the division check mark looking thing.
In mathematics, a divisor is a number that divides another number either completely or partially.
Yeah. Once you get to algebra, it kind of like becomes meaningless. From like whether it's a denominator or a divisor, they do the same thing, sort of. It's just like a different format of writing the same thing. I'm getting all jumbled up because my daughter's in 3rd grade, so she's learning multiplication and division in Common Core math, and I'm like, I don't know how to do it this way. The way they write things out is like it kind of makes sense, but also is like harder than I remember it being. Oh, we deleted the car. Why did I delete the car? Because I couldn't divide by 0, but we can still do a division problem. So we're going to make a message broadcaster, and we're gonna just have it send A1, or we're gonna have it say divide, And it's going to... Wait, what was the argument that I just set up? I just set up a message. What was it? I
don't remember.
Fwonk. How could I forget? How could I forget?
Yep.
Label. Wait, what is that? I don't actually know. Did I select the wrong type of thing for that? We're gonna delete that message. So let's go to settings, and we can go to messages checklist, and we can actually select Fwonk and delete it. And now it's not there anymore, so we can add it new. Except it didn't delete it. It lied to me. I think you might have to save. I think you have to save after you delete the messages to make them disappear. Checklist. Fwonk is still there. I said go away. Thank you. And hit save. We're going to try it again. Wizards and bears are never late. But what if it's a wizard bear?
Are they always late at that point?
Maybe always, but never.
We're getting back into that math side of things, and I'm not okay with this.
All right. Message broadcaster. Edit logic. We're going to send Fwonk. Okay, yeah, Fwonk is gone now because I deleted the object that was using the message, and I deleted the message from the system. So we're going to add it with an argument. Arguments of the message. Number float. Divisor. Create. There it is. Yeah, I don't know why I was showing label before, but now it's showing the correct thing. So let's say we're going to divide something by half. And it's going to send to rules. And actually, it'd be cooler to do this with an asker. I don't know if we can do it with an asker. Because we could say divide a number by, and then whichever one we select. Let's try that. We're going to try an asker. Message required is interact. What to divide by, question mark. And we're going to say 0.75, 0.5, 0.25, and actually we're multiplying, so we would say divide by 2, divide by 3, divide by 4, divide by 5. And then we're going to select that Fwonk message, and it lets us pick a divisor. So to divide by 2 is 0.5. To divide by 3 is 0.333. And we're using the same message for all of this. So this is only going to go to one rule. Divide by Fwonk. Divide by 4 is 0.25. I'm going to put the 0 just to be consistent. Fwonk. And divisor is 0.2. And we're going to broadcast 2 rules. So we're going to interact with the car. It's going to ask us what to divide 10 by. And that should be all set. So that's going to send that message to our rules. We're going to go back up into our gameplay. Game rules. And we're going to do math, multiply a number. And it's a good idea to always label the stuff, so we can label the rule set. Calculator. And we're going to call this particular rule the flunking question. Required message is flunk, because that's what's going to activate this whole process. Number variable, and then multiply with. So what did we say? I think we said 10, right?
Yes.
Let's we can always go back and check. I said what to divide 10 by. There we go. Go to gameplay.
See, I knew it was 10.
This all better work out because I didn't test this ahead of time. I'm just making this up as I go. So we're gonna select a number variable. We need to add a new variable. So we're gonna make a new number type. This is just gonna be called 10. Typically, you're not gonna be dividing constants in game math.
Why 4?
Because you'll already know what the answer is. We don't need to do like what I'm setting up right now. We don't need to divide 10 by those numbers to get those answers. We could do that math ahead of time, and you just select those questions and spit out the answer without doing the math.
Gotcha.
So you select option A, and you know that 10 divided by 2 is, or 10 multiplied by 0.5 or divided by 2 is going to be 5. Right? We already know that. We don't have to do the math to have that show up. Typically, you're going to do math on a variable that's changing for some reason, like things that are happening in the game, because games are not static things. There's always something changing. That's what makes it a game. Yeah, it's kind of silly that we're setting up a variable just to have a constant here, but that's what we're doing. So variable 10.
We're doing it to learn.
Yeah. And it's actually, you know what? We do want this to be a variable, though, because it's going to output to this same number. We're changing this variable to what the result is. So I'm not going to call it 10. I'm going to call it in, out. So we've got our number going in. It's going to start on 10, because that's our process. And then it's going to output to that same variable, whatever the result is, based on the argument that we selected. And it's going to be shown at the start of the game. It's going to be shown up on the screen. And we're going to put it on the bottom. And value is just going to be what we call it. Okay? So we're selecting in, out. Why can't I click the variable? Hello, let me select one of them, please. It says to select a number variable, but it doesn't want to let me do that. Now it's doing it. Okay, in, out. There we go. For some reason, this one got a little bugged. There we go. We just duplicated it, and now we've got our in, out. Multiply with the value of, and now we don't want a fixed value because we're setting this based on the argument of flunk. So we change this from fixed value to message argument. So remember I said that that argument is like a sticky note that's tagging along with the message. So we've got this message fonk activating this math rule to happen, and we're using whatever answer we picked because that answer put an argument in here, and it's going to go with the selected number of that argument. And then message to send, none. We don't need it to send a message when it's done. It's just going to change what that value on our screen is. If this works correctly, we're going to find out. We're going to hit save just in case, so I don't have to set this all up again. 20 to 30 game jams a month. A month? That's
I was just watching the tweet because I wanted to verify it. I think he does say that. So, but he also talks about multiple communities. So maybe he's saying like different communities will be like, Sandbox Korea would do their own and Sandbox Turkey would do their own. So maybe it's something along those lines, but it also sounds like it's down the road type situation. Like this is something that he's
yeah.
talking about like being eventually. I'm going to have to watch it again just to make sure I've got the full grasp on it because I was listening to you while listening to Seb. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a terrible multitasker. So that's not a great idea. It's not a recipe for success over here, Alex.
I know somewhat imminently, like this month, we're expecting 2 game jams a month. Maybe he meant 20 to 30 a year.
Maybe it could have been he just misspoke.
Yeah, 20 to 30 a month would be a big change. I mean, that's a massive change. Like, could it be done? Maybe. It's not going to kill me because I'm not going to do all of it. if we're getting 20 to 30 game jams a month, I'm hiring more people right away. Like,
but he does. Seb does say in the tweet, like it's a video of him talking, and he's got a Binance mic, so I'm guessing it was the Binance conference. And he says it's not. He's like, we're going to be accelerating the amount of game jams we're doing, not one a month, but 20 to 30 a month. So involve communities from all around the world and bring more and more creators. So it's all focused on creativity.
yeah.
So maybe he is saying that the plan is to eventually get to 20, 30 game jams a month. But like I said,
Yeah,
he's talking about multiple communities. So maybe it's community
Yeah.
focused.
I would say eventually is a very important word.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the plan for the year, and 20 to 30 for the year seems kind of what it's at. And if it's going to be 20 to 30 a month, then I would say almost definitely there's going to be multiple groups running like diverse
Multiple game jams.
Yeah. So each community will have something to pick from.
Yeah. That could make a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right. So we've got our value 10 down here. Let's see what happens when we interact with this car. What do you want to divide it by, Lucas?
I want to divide it by 5.
5? All right, let's see what it tells us. Nothing!
Oh.
All right, so I did something wrong, or it's not meant to work that way. Let's see.
Maybe he just doesn't like the number 5.
That's a possibility. Okay, so this part looks correct.
Why don't we try playing it again and just using a different answer just to see if something different happens?
Yep, I do want to double check my logic here, make sure that nothing is immediately immediately wrong. Okay, so we did say broadcast to rules. That should be fine. And then let's go into gameplay and game rules.
Oh my god, I got so many tabs going on.
In out. Oh, it says this is not active for some reason. Why is that not? Oh, it has to be an integer. It says it right there. I saw it said int eg 25. but I did not. It didn't click that meant an integer. Fixed value, so I can't. It really doesn't want to let us do division. It's like,
just like, hey, no, thank you.
I don't know why. I mean, okay, so division can probably end up messier than multiplication, not just because of dividing by 0, but when you divide something by something, you can get irrational numbers where the division just keeps on going on forever, and maybe they didn't have it all set up to take care of that. Whereas like multiplication, it's always going to be an integer. It just might become a very big one depending on how big your inputs are. Float is decimals. Don't think you can divide by an integer. Well, we can't divide by anything. We can only multiply. If we want to divide, we have to multiply by a float. But we can't multiply by a float. We can only multiply by an integer. So I don't think we can do division. Darn. Again, I'm not sure why. I don't know why specifically. I have my theories, but that's okay. We don't have to do division. I was trying to see if we could maybe do it. We can switch to multiplication. So we are going to. I don't think. Does anybody in the chat, have you messed with arguments? Do you know of a way to change the argument settings? Because I haven't seen a way to do that. I've only seen like being able to delete and start over. Like, can we like control click on it or like right click or anything? Yeah, I think we just have to make a new one. So we'll say Fwonk2 and Fwonk2 with arguments.
Yeah, Game Busy says float is decimals. Don't think you can divide by an integer.
I replied to that.
Yeah, I'm just never mind.
It's okay. We'll say it's jet lag.
That I'm on the back end at Twitch right now trying to sort all this stuff out, and it's
worse than trying to figure this out. I know, because I've been in the depths of Twitch trying to figure that stuff out, and it's not fun. All right, so we've got our integer argument name, divide, or is this a multiplicator? We'll just call it multi. Create, and now we can change these all to Fwonk2. And what to multiply by, and then we'll put 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Okay, so now we just did the same thing, but now we're going to do it by multiplication instead of division, because it doesn't like me. Use float it a real number. It won't let me use the when you select multiply in the math calculator, it only lets you select integers. It won't let me use a float. I don't know why. So message argument, we're going to change this to Fwonk2. See, it's no longer red. Message argument multi. Now it's going to let me do it.
Interesting.
So that red, I saw that red, and it didn't click in my brain that says that's an error. It's not going to let you do that. Actually, I'm curious if that would trigger a bug. Like on the debug thing, if it would go, hey, this message is incomplete. We'll try to break it next. All right, so we're gonna go to the car here, and what do we want to multiply by, Lucas?
3.
Hey, our value changed to 30. What next?
There you go. What next?
Yeah, I need another number.
5.
150. You're good at this.
Oh man, I'm so good.
Oh, what just happened? I can't move anymore. What the? It like froze up on me. Like it's not frozen. I'm still moving.
Wait, what do you mean you're still moving? It doesn't look like you're moving.
Wizzy's head is still moving.
Oh yeah. Wizzy's head is still bobbing around.
The lava's still flowing. But something decided to stop working. I don't know what. We're gonna restart the game maker. Do we have winners for our giveaway yet?
We don't. I was just about to do that.
Okay. Well, I don't think we lost too much because we had saved before the time it didn't work, and it was a very simple change to get it to what did work. In theory, we could just keep on multiplying that number out. But I think you all get the point. Is we had one message and one rule and one variable and one argument, and all of that made essentially a calculator. We could keep on growing that number. There are in-game tutorials for the rules also. Yes, there are. They can be a little intimidating if you're not familiar with programming. I've been familiar with variables and functions and arguments since high school, so I have a little bit of a leg up, but also I haven't done real coding in pretty much since high school, so it does take a little bit of reorientation. Okay, we lost Fwonk too, but that's okay. We don't really need to rebuild that calculator. So I wanted to show what was working and what wasn't working with the live system with the new changes. So we're gonna delete that calculator rule that we were playing around with. Don't need that anymore. So as you know from what we just explored, when we pick up the heart, it's supposed to send a message to change the life. So I have this collect message that says life, and it's got a +1 as the argument, which means that our life counter should go up based on the gameplay rule. So we go to our game rules, and we go to our live system rule set here, and we've got this life change math. Message required is life. It changes the value of our variable lives, and it changes it by the life argument that we called change by, and change by is an integer value. So that means that we pick up the heart, and it adds 1 to the lives, and then it also sends the message life change. This checks how many lives we have. So theoretically, if we had -1 lives at the start of the game, picking up that 1 up would kill us. It would give us a game over.
Really?
Because if we started at -1, getting +1 would put us at 0 lives, and this just checks if we're at 0 lives. That's an important thing to recognize.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
This is actually a bug that's happened in many games over the past 30 years. I mean, it happened a lot on like NES games and other like early video games. Is you could get, if you got to like negative lives through certain like exploits, you would have infinite lives because you would be below 0 lives. So no matter how many times you died, you would still not hit 0 lives, and the game would never end. So that's an important thing to think about. You could set this up differently. Minimum value could be negative. I don't know how many. There's a limit. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So if you set to negative 9,999,999,999, then anywhere between that and 0, you'll get a game over. That could be. It actually, when you click off of it, it does have a different value. Million, billion. 2,147,483,648. I don't know why it's that number. Yeah. There's also a compare number that can compare lower equals.
Mm-hmm.
There is. Go to rules, comparisons, compare numbers. So this could actually be a little bit more of an efficient way to do this as well. Can I not put it in there? Get in there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So message required to be life change. Select a number variable is lives. We can delete in out. Don't need that anymore. Okay, lives condition. Okay, so yeah, this is a better way to do it. So check if a number is in a range. This is if you want to select a specific range of that variable. So if we wanted, say, a special power up, if you have between 5 and 10 lives, then we could use this compare in a range. And if you wanted a special trophy at the end of the game, if you had between 10 and 15 lives, you could use find in a range. Although you'd probably want it to be check if it's greater than. So this is me messing around with the rules as I've popped them up and have not actually looked at what every single one does yet. But thank you, V, for pointing that out. So yeah, we're going to get rid of this comparison, check if it's in a range, and we're actually going to compare number. So if lives is lower equals, meaning equal to or lower than a fixed value of 0, then it's going to send that defeat message. Basically exactly the same as this. It's just a little more efficiently written, if that makes any sense. And,
it does.
So we can delete this one. And
less is more in situations like this. So if there's any way you can write something so that there is fewer steps in the process, it's always going to work more efficiently.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So.
Also, I have those winners.
Okay. Well, first, let's show
Yeah.
if this works. So we are going to demonstrate what we've already shown in the previous stream. We start off with 3 lives, and we pick up a heart, and it gives us an extra life. And if we die a few times,
Ooh.
we get a defeat. Now, after we announce the winners, I'm going to show you why the defeat part of it, or the losing life part of it, has to be different right now. It's we made this super efficient for the doing the 1-up.
Okay.
But it's going to be kind of inefficient. Not really inefficient, but there's an extra step for losing the life, and I'll explain why. But first, our winners.
First, our winners. Congratulations goes out to a wet noodle. You have won Wizzy's crispy, singed, burnt orange hat, pulled from the depths of Mount Doom itself. No, I'm just kidding. Alex, where did the orange hat come from?
The Null.
The Null. There we go. Mount Doom, the Null. I get those confused sometimes. It's just me. And also, congratulations goes out to Pickaxe Master. You have won Wizzy's lucky green hat.
Hey.
May the luck of the Irish ever shine upon you. Yeah, those are the winners for today.
Awesome.
Congratulations, everyone. Please enjoy and wear them with pride.
So, when I was told how we could make this more efficient, the idea was that both the heart and losing of the life would use the argument system to change that value. But when I tried doing it for losing a life, I didn't lose any lives. I would respawn the way I expected, but the value of lives didn't change. And we found out there's a bug. It's been reported, and it should hopefully be fixed in the next update. We'll see. It may be as simple as just like enabling an option somewhere. It may be more complicated. I don't know. That's not the side of things that I work on. But what we did is in the health component, message sent on death is life, just like with the heart pickup. But if I set this change by to -1, nothing happens. And if I set it to +1, nothing happens. Basically, the life component on the player is not sending the argument to the rule system, which is a bug. We had broadcast type set to rules. We tried setting it to all. We tried doing different values with this. Nothing was getting it to work. So what I did is I made a simple donut relay. We send the life message. We don't worry about setting any value for the argument. The change by can be 0. And the broadcast type is set to selected actors and then targets on death. I told it to go specifically to the life loss event logic donut, which I just put up over here next to the defeat. This is the defeat event that we made last stream. Last Wednesday, I should say. And this is the life loss event. And all this does is it waits for broadcast and receives the message life, and then it sends the message life to the rule system with an argument of -1. It's doing literally what the player death message is supposed to be doing, but the player death message tells this to happen. And it has no problem with the fact that it has life as the receiving message and the sending message, that it's receiving it directly to this entity and then sending it to the rule system. It's happy with all of that. You just saw it working. I got the defeat after jumping in the lava a bunch of times. So that's how the life system works currently. Hopefully with the next update, we would actually be able to remove this donut and put this -1 in the actual player health settings. What we didn't check is if that is just for the player health or if it's affected by other health as well. So what we can do is we can add a health component to this car. I don't want it to be multiplayer. I want it to be there. Set it low so it's easy to kill. And we're going to have it death event, destroy, instant death message. Don't worry about that. Message sent on death is going to be life. So we're going to see if this changes my life bar. Change by -1, broadcast type to rules, and that should actually be it to make this change to life. So we've got 3 lives. We're going to attack the car. And it did. It changed life. And it also dropped me hearts. Oh, because there was grass there.
I would say, did you mean to do that?
No. I was like, I didn't set that up on the car. I don't know where these hearts came from. It's because all the grass right now drops hearts, which is actually what the point of this stream is. How much time you got, Lucas? You got a few more minutes to spend with us?
I do. I've got another... I should have about another 30 minutes.
Okay. Hopefully.
I may need to take a bathroom break at some point between then and now, but...
Well, let's see if we can figure this out. Before you got to hit the head. So let's get rid of this car. So our life system is working. And our health pickup system is working. That one's even simpler. Those hearts are preset, healing heart, and edit logic. When we collect them, the collect message is health, which is a like a preset message for the game maker, sort of like arguments, but you'll see that it's blue instead of yellow. So health will increase or decrease the health of the asset that it's sent to. So we have this sending to specific targets in range, sending to the player. There may be other ways to send this. You could send it to everyone in range. You could send this to maybe rules or selected actors. Selected actors, I don't think will work because the player character is not an actor in the list. But specific tags in range and sending to player and then adding a player tag works pretty well. So I just added the player tag here like this. And if I have damage, it heals me. It's cool. Now, we want there to be a chance of the grass dropping a heart, because having all the grass drop a heart is a bit much. So we want to figure out a way to randomize this a bit. Do we want to do that, or do we want me to go through what all the rules are?
Wait, so it's the grass or the rules?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to do both today.
Which do you think would be more productive for the players long term? Because I think the rules might be a little more.
I think that the rules are maybe a better primer, and it might inform the way that we do randomization on this.
I was gonna say, I think it would, because if we go through all of them, there might be something in there that we didn't see, like when we were going through the math stuff.
I think.
Yeah, let's go through the rules.
Okay, let's go through the rules. I said randomization on the thing, and now we're gonna do it a little differently, but that's okay.
We're going through the rules so that we can learn about the randomization.
Yeah,
we're taking a very non-randomized approach to learning randomization.
All right, so let's open up our gameplay here. Byron Art asks, does sending collectible messages work in published versions now? Yes. So there were several different bugs that were happening, and I don't remember which specific one you were encountering, and it could have been any number of things, but I'm pretty sure all are working now. Because so this is all been in single player environment, not multiplayer, and that could make a difference, because I know sometimes collecting things in multiplayer has not worked correctly, not played well with other things. But in everything that I've tested so far, collection messages have worked just fine. So this sword here at the beginning of the game, you do have to pick it up, and it sends a message which starts off all like the quest and battle logic. That's a objective: collect the sword. I think it has a message that it sends. Pick up. Oh, I was looking in the indicator, not the collectible. Yeah, ancient sword picked up. So picking this up is like what triggers the whole game to start, basically. And then that was an interaction with the sword. Me just touching the life or the health hearts, collected them and sent a message. Collectible assets could not send collectible messages. It was working in Game Maker, but not in Game Client on version 8. Yeah, I guess that's just something to experiment with because I haven't had an issue with it yet, but I also haven't tried publishing this to the game client. I think that was kind of a high priority. Check the change logs. If you go to the game maker download page, there's a change log there, which might mention if it was fixed specifically. Go to create change log. NFT images, replace assets, unknown assets, advanced platforms, quest indicators, checkpoints, presets. There's a bunch in this. If we search collectible, not sure. It also could be like it just didn't get mentioned in the change log. If you have your own land, you can publish to it now. So if you wanted to make like a small experiment, you could test it out. If I wasn't already showing something else, I'd probably detour to that. Maybe if we have time, maybe we can check that out too. All right, so let's go to our gameplay. Fwank Zappa. That sounds like the next avatar for Panda. That's what that sounds like.
That's wonderful.
All right. So we're gonna work in a little blank area here, and we're gonna look at what all these rules are. So, something V mentioned earlier that I did show on last stream is that there's little tutorials for every single thing in this. If you click on this little info button here, zoom in, this little info button here, or if you just right click on, well, I guess you can't right click anywhere. If you right click on specific spots or left click on the info button, it brings up a rule like tutorial kind of thing. So it'll say what the whole card is for, add, subtract number. This rule adds and subtracts numbers. And you click the down arrow, and it shows you what this specific part of the card is for. Required message, set the incoming message to trigger the rule. So we have to put whatever message is going to make this rule play. Down to the next one, select the number variable to change its value. So we pick whatever variable from our list of variables, or we make a new variable that is going to have math applied to it. Value change. This one's a little bit longer. You can scroll on it. Enter a positive value to add. Enter a negative value to subtract. You don't have to put plus and a number, but if you want to subtract, you do have to put minus and a number. You can decide from which source you want to get the value. You could get it from a variable, message argument, which is what we did earlier with the multiplication, or a fixed value. So in the case of variable, like if we're storing a number from some other rule in a variable, we could use that number to do the math here. If we are storing, if we're sending that value through the argument, which is what we did for the multiplication, it would work that way. Or we could just do the math by a constant amount. Say like, okay, we know we want to take whatever this number is and multiply it by 100 for reasons. We could do it that way. Hey, and Andy Ritchie's rating with a party of 14. Welcome.
Hey, Andy.
And then message to send is something that says, hey, this process is done. Let's go do the next thing. So if you have a string of rules that you want to all have happen in a row, you can make a message that gets sent out to trigger the next one. So you could say math part 1 is the message to activate this, and then math part 2 gets sent at the end, and then your next rule is math part 2 is what triggers it, and you could go through a whole series of equations that way. All of them would update whatever variable you pick. So the variable that you pick here changes to whatever value you change it by here. You're not taking X variable, doing math, and then it puts it in Y variable. You're taking X variable, doing math, and it puts it back in the X variable. So that variable will be changing based on whatever math you do. And then it sends a message. Now, some of these, like the comparison ones, will send the message if the comparison is true. So if you're asking, is lives equal to 0, it only sends the message if that's true. But something like math here, it just happens. There's no question about it. It's just saying do this, and then the message to send could be none. You could be all done with it after that, or you can trigger the next event. So that's math, add, subtract a number. Add, subtract a number continuously. Time variable. So this could, let's see what it says for the time variable. Select the time variable to store the time. Duration, enter a number value to start the timer. You can decide from which source you want to get the value variable. Each variable has its own value. The logic box will use the value of the selected variable. Message argument, some messages contain values via arguments. The logic box will, this is kind of all straightforward. So it's looking like we have the math happening continuously for a certain duration. And we change it by a certain amount. So you could do something like doing a certain amount of damage over an amount of time, or like not necessarily player damage, but like say damage to a spaceship. So like while this timer is running, your spaceship keeps getting more damage until it hits a maximum value and you get a game over, or until you fix a thing and the message to stop the rule prevents it from keeping on going. So this would be a good way to do like damage over time to something.
Poison.
Exactly. Actually, if we do the poison preset, there's probably poison preset. It says math. Yeah, start poison increase, start poison decrease. That looks like the same logic here. It is. It's the same. Very astute observation, Lucas.
I just really like characters that poison other characters. I always think it's a lot of fun. So it's always just at the forefront of my mind.
All right. Next rule, multiply number. We went over that a lot already. It's the same as addition. It's just multiplication. And definitely not division because reasons that I don't know.
Because of science.
Because of floating point errors, maybe? I don't know. All right,
who's to say?
That's all the math rules. Let's go to the time rules. Add and subtract time. This rule adds and subtracts time. So this would be for use with a time variable. So see how we pretty much all of these start with a required message. In order to make a rule card start, in order for one of these functions to happen, a message has to start it. And in this case, once we've started, it's going to ask what the time variable is. So we need some variable from the list. Like we've got poison increase timer and poison decrease timer. And we can change the value to a specific amount or an amount based on, a message, argument, or a variable. So let's say we wanted to set the timer to 30 seconds. We could put 30. Or if we had an asker saying, how much time will you need for this task, 60 seconds or 30 seconds, we could set a message argument, and then whatever the asker reply is, say like, A1 or whatever, we could have an argument attached to it of 30 or 60, depending on which they pick. Or if you say you had like a 2-player competitive thing, and player 1 does something in a certain amount of time, you could say, how long did that player take to do it, with a global time variable. Okay, now you have this as your time limit. You set that time limit for the other player, and they have to do it in that time or they get a game over. So that's why we would add and subtract time. Pause time.
I mean, couldn't you also do something like you're in a race and you have a limited amount of time, but you can get like time boosters to give you more time to stay in the race or something like that?
Oh yeah. That's absolutely a thing to do. Did we already have? I think it was just speed boosts in Bombkus, right? Because there wasn't a time limit. But yeah, if you had a time limited parkour where it like respawns the player back at the start if they don't make it up in 30 seconds, or something like that, you could have like a plus 5 second booster here and there that would keep the timer from running out.
That would be a lot of fun. Very stressful.
That is the cathartic thing of games, is beating the stressful thing and feeling the relief of like overcoming that obstacle. If you don't get that, then I mean, there are people who like playing games that don't give a cathartic release, I guess, but I am not one of them. A lot of people are going to need to get good and spoin. Pause time again. This could be some sort of timeout feature, or if you need them to talk to an NPC while there's a timer running, you could have the timer pause during the conversation and have interacting with the NPC initiate the pause, and have finishing talking to the NPC end the pause, something like that. But yeah, again, required message. You select which time variable is that timer that you're looking at. Pause state. I am curious exactly how this one works with the pause state. So it says pause state, use the true false value to decide whether to pause or resume the time. Okay, so yeah, it's not pause time as one rule and unpause time as another rule. It's just pause time. And you would either, you would need to make it true before you make it false, I guess, because you're not starting paused.
You're not starting paused.
Right.
Wouldn't you be starting paused? I mean, before you start, you're paused, I guess is what you're saying. Once you start, you're no longer paused.
If you think of it as like a stopwatch that resets to zero when you restart, versus pausing the timer and it being
gotcha.
frozen at that value.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm not really sure the pause state fixed value. I mean, you can have the true false as an argument. Okay. Yeah. So you can have a true false variable. That's it. You got to click on these things to see what it's asking for. So fixed value, we can say whether this rule makes it paused, meaning true, or not paused, false. But what you could do is have a conversation with an NPC where they say, hey, you're looking stressed out. Do you need a break? And then the response that you pick from them will send a true or false value in the message argument to decide whether they pause the timer for you or not. Like, you could like run up to your coach and go like, we need a timeout. And he goes, okay. and sends the message argument to go pause, and the timer stops. And then you go back and talk to your coach again. He goes, "Are you ready?" And you go, "Yeah." And then it unpauses with the other argument. So yeah, that's what that would be useful for. Set time value. This is more what we were talking about with like resetting the timer. If you want to set the time on the clock, this is the way to do it. You set a specific time. Start timer. So rule starts a timer in seconds. So here you can also set what the duration is. So like this would be the thing you use to initialize the entire timer thing. The set time value is if you want to change it to a specific number. So you can add, subtract time from what the current timer value is, or you can set it to a totally new and specific value with the set value. But for all of that to be working, you want a timer running. And then stopwatch. I think stopwatch would go the opposite direction, right? A timer counts down and a stopwatch counts up.
Correct. Because
So
you're tracking how much time you're actually using.
yeah,
Like you want to know how fast you did the mile. So you start it when you go and it counts up so that when you're done, you know where you finished at.
right. So in the case of like a timer, you could have, you've got 60 seconds to get to the end of the race or game over. And you set it to 60 seconds, it's counting down, and you get plus 5-second boosts to give you more time to get to the finish line. Whereas with a stopwatch, it would be try to get your fastest time on the track. We're starting at 0, and when you cross the finish line, we'll see what your time was. And you could get minus 2-second boosts to lower your time, which I mean is kind of cheating, I guess. But you know, if that's the mechanic for your game, that's fine. To try to get the fastest time, and then as a player, you have to make a choice: is it worth it to run straight to the finish line, or do I take the detour, and is the risk worth the reward to get the time reduction for that final time? And then you cross the finish line, the stopwatch stops, and you take that value, put it in your high score table. Those are the time rules. We're moving right along here. Comparisons. We already went over this one. Check if a number's in a range. So we get our required message to start the rule. We kind of have to jump down here. Number variable to compare. So we... why can't I click anything? I'm confused. Why is it... There we go.
Do it again.
Okay.
Okay.
So sometimes these windows are getting stuck for me. And what I usually do to fix that is you can actually just drag the whole thing out into a new section, and then they magically, whoop, see, it stopped working again. But if I drag it back out, now it works again. I don't know why.
Interesting.
But yeah, just to note, what the way I fixed it before is I duplicated it, which makes an identical copy, and I just deleted the old one.
And the new one worked just fine.
And the new one worked fine. It had like this 1, but you can change these names, so you can just remove that in parentheses 1, and this is an identical clone copy of the first one. So it's not too bad to overcome that. Just if you aren't able to click things, don't freak out. Just see what you can move, make it do that, and then yeah, for some reason when I drag it out, it's so weird. I don't know. I think maybe like when it's out here, it's not in a rule set, maybe. And then when I drag it back, it's like, oh yeah, no, we needed to be inside of a container. I don't know why it's doing that, but it's doing that. So anyway,
it's a minor inconvenience with a very quick fix.
Yeah, exactly. So we select our variable. or an argument or a fixed value. I don't know why you would compare if a fixed value is between a range.
Why you would compare if a fixed value was between a range?
Right. So this right here is the number that we're comparing if it's between the minimum and the maximum values. But we
Well,
can
you could
select a
say,
fixed value. So I can say 10. 10 will never be between 0 and 0. This will always be false. So I don't know why I need that as an option. There may be a good reason for it. I just don't know what it is. I wouldn't typically use fixed value in this scenario.
it could be something like you've got to fall within a certain range to complete a puzzle.
Okay, I guess you can look at it in the inverse, because you can set the minimum and the maximum value as a variable or an argument.
Okay.
So instead of comparing if a variable is in between this range, you can compare if this variable range falls on a specific number. I don't know when I would
Hot and
use
cold?
that. Yes, you can make a thermostat game. Like, you, except I don't know why you wouldn't still do it the other way around. But yeah, you can. You can have that. There's probably some scenario where this math would be useful. I'm
They
not.
might just be covering future bases.
Yeah, I'm not specifically able to think of where I would use this, but instead of finding if variable x is between 0 and 100 or whatever, I still can't. Why can't I edit it? It's being so weird. It's being spicy for reasons I don't know why.
Spicy.
Yeah, it's this middle one that seems to be giving me the most trouble.
Maybe it's because. Never mind. Maybe. Oh, change the 10. Change the 10 value.
Oh, that one down there.
Yeah,
nope,
because.
I still can't click it.
Okay, never mind. I was gonna say maybe it's because the values are outside of the range already, so it won't allow you to add a value that is already existing outside of it.
See, it just really doesn't like this maximum value number for me right now, and I don't know why, but it's not important. I'm not trying to set up an actual thing. So you can either have a, well, you can set up any combinations of these. So if I set up a minimum value of 0 and a maximum value of 1, and I set this to a fixed value of 2, it's never going to be true. It's a pointless rule. But I could set the minimum and the maximum to be variables or arguments, in which case that range can flux. It can either get bigger or smaller, and it can shift. And it could test if this variable or argument or fixed value ever falls in that range. And you could compare it constantly. So you can compare either when this message, the required message, happens. So if you send this message A1, it will check this comparison, that instance, just once. And anytime that message A1 is sent, it will recheck that comparison. And if that comparison is ever true, it will send another message out. Or you can have it be a constant comparison, and it will just keep on checking every frame or tick. I don't know exactly at what the time frame is for checking this, but it will just constantly check, okay, do these sloshing around of numbers ever line up where this variable is between these two? And you can define each 3 of these separately as constants or arguments or variables. could be some complicated math, but specifically the thing that I've been trying to help Panda with is making a random generator that will check basically what you rolled. So like if you roll a d20, if it's below a certain number, option A happens. If it's between two numbers, option B happens. And
Ooh,
if it's above a certain number, option C happens. Although I think Panda only had it with two. Um,
like a pass or a fail. If you roll below a
mhm.
10, you're a fail. If you
Yep.
roll 11 or above, you're a pass.
Yep. And so there is a random roller for variables where you could have a number be, that could be what you're changing here. The variable or the argument on this could be your random number that uh, has specific range for a specific event happening. Or, I mean, you can make all of these arguments. If you could set up an RPG engine where basically everything is happening with arguments, so you're really only having one math rule or two math rules, really. So you have one be your rolling, and then your minimum and maximum are set by whatever the question is, by the dungeon master question, basically. So
Mm.
it's like, okay, you need to be like above this or below this, roll it, and then you
I was
get
gonna say, yeah,
whatever it is.
like below a certain point is, say perception check. You below a certain point, you fail. Within a certain range, nothing happens, and then above a certain range, you pass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, so there's all sorts of things that you can do with this. I see it being really useful for making semi-random events. Just saying like, okay, that I want like a couple different possibilities to happen. Which monster's gonna spawn. Um, you know, different ranges of values, and you can set this to happen multiple times all at once. So you can set up multiple ranges of comparisons, uh, and they can all start with the same message, and only the ones that are true will fire off the message at the end. So you can say there's three different monsters that we want to spawn, and if it rolls, and so we're rolling, say, a d20. So we're rolling between 1 and 20, and if it's a 1 to a 10, that's a 50% chance of basic monster happening.
Mm.
And if it rolls between 11, and you want to make sure not to overlap them or else you'll spawn both. If it lands on a 10
Okay.
and you say between 1 and 10 and between 10 and 5, it's going to do both of those, which you could also want to do. So you could even set up ranges. You could set these to be overlapping ranges. Multiple could be true at the same time. But if you want to make it simple, you do between 1 and 10. Of course, I can't, click on the numbers for all of these for reasons. What the heck? I don't understand it. Um, so we'll say this is between 1 and 10 is the basic monster. Between 11 and 8 is the mini boss monster. And between, or did I say 8? I meant 18. 11 and 18.
Yeah, I knew what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
meant. And then
11 and
like
18.
19 and 20
And
is
then,
like big daddy boss.
yeah, 1920 is Big Daddy Boss. And so, depending on which one you rolled, only one of these rules will be true when you run the roll message. And whichever one of these is true, it spits out your end result, your monster.
Got it.
Um, so that's comparisons. And similar to this, and we looked at this earlier also, is comparing numbers instead of a range. This one's probably easier to work with for certain things, like we did with the life system. Instead of doing a range between 0 and some stupid negative number of 2 billion something, you can just say, is it equal to or less than, meaning lower equals to 0, then if that's true, you lose your game. You lost all your lives. You got a game over.
You dead.
Yeah. Uh, so this is basic arithmetic stuff. Equals, not equals, greater, greater equals, lower, lower equals. I'm not gonna get into all the details of that at this moment.
Thank you.
Let's see. Compare time. So you would do. Could you do 2 time variables? Yeah, you could do 2 time variables. So you could compare. Yeah, you could check if somebody's beat their best lap. So each time they run a course, it updates a variable, and you store their previous time in a different variable, and when they beat the race, it goes, is the time that they did just now better than their previous time? And then you could have it pop a message on the screen that goes, new record. You could also use this to compare players against each other. I think that you would need some so with global variables and local variables, it might be a little tricky. I think if you were to have the players like grab an item, like, I'm on team A and I'm on team B, so instead of it tracking the player's time through that course, is tracking the item's time through that course, then you could define separate messages and variables for those.
Okay.
That might be a little bit easier to do. I would have to experiment with it to know like exactly how you could compare those times. But yeah, you could definitely set up all sorts of cool stuff with comparing times. Changing variable values, we can roll a random number. So we set the minimum value, the maximum value. Again, like in the comparison, we could make those arguments or variables to like whatever, rolling with what's it called? Rolling with advantage or rolling with disadvantage. You have a
Okay.
plus. You have a +2, meaning that you can't roll a 1 or a 2. The lowest you can roll is a 3. You could do something like that. And then the number variable is where our random roll gets stored for us doing a comparison on something later on.
Can I just say how much I really appreciate the fact that we keep using D&D as like a reference point for stuff that we're talking about?
D&D is like the foundation of game coding logic. I mean, there's there
Makes
there
sense.
are video games that are older than role playing games, or not than role playing games in general, but there's video games that predate the earliest role playing video games. But D&D uses so much math that I feel like a lot of people can relate to it.
Okay.
And describing how we do random rolls, I mean, is fundamentally dice anyway. So it's just easy to make that connection. I hope the analogy sticks for other people. And this is me having only played like 5 sessions of D&D in my life. I have more sets of dice than I have played sessions of tabletop role playing games. It's you may have seen my tweet earlier today.
I did. So I keep getting this ad that pops up on social media. It's for this little base, and you basically set a magnetic dice on it, magnetic die on it, and it floats there. It just floats like
Okay,
a good couple inches off the
yeah,
table.
I need that.
I need it so bad, but I'm like, it's like $150, and I'm just like,
Oh
I
no.
keep seeing it, and I'm like, ooh, it's so nice. And I look at the price, and I'm like, ah. But I've got like 900 other dice right behind me right
Right. I've at
now.
least spent that much on dice this year.
Yeah,
Um
but on one, on
on
one.
on one, I don't remember how much my chonk was. Wait, it's somewhere. It's in like storage somewhere. I don't remember where I put it. My like baseball sized die.
Uh,
Um anyway, So we can roll a random number. That one's pretty straightforward. Set number value. So if we wanted to set a value to a variable and be very specific about it, we're not changing it based on the gameplay, plus or minus or multiplication. We're just saying this variable is right now going to be this number. That's that one. Set a text value. This is what we were talking about with V earlier. So we get a message and start text, new text, enter text. I don't know if, I'm guessing there's probably a character limit. Who knows what it is? Oh, it looks like I've met it.
Copy paste, see how many were in there. Select all.
Look, I'm gonna guess it's 60 because there are there's other values that are similar to that. Let's see.
Alex, I will be right back.
Yep. Yeah, it's 60 character limit. So yeah, I really want to be able to define like map zones in my game. Say like you're now entering this space. I think it's kind of cool when games do that. And set true false value. This is an old favorite of mine. It wasn't the first thing that got me into game making, but something that I did play around a lot with when I was in like later in middle school and in high school was RPG Maker. And a lot of setting up game logic in RPG Maker is true false comparisons. You talk to this character and it flips a switch, which means that this other object is basically the toggle feature, the toggle component in the game maker is kind of how it works. So you interact with this NPC and it toggles that one over there and that toggles that one over there, and you just have all these toggles going off to make things happen. So I love true false in game logic. It's very useful. And then game screen banner. So we can set up some cool new stuff with the game screen. The banner is I'm trying to see.
I am here.
Hi. So we can set. Let's see. Where's the info? The rule displays the banner on the game screen for X seconds. Select the incoming message to trigger the rule. That's the same for all the others. Select the variable to display on the banner. Okay, so this is the text variable. So we can do up to 60 characters, and it will display whatever variable we set. I am curious if we can do text formatting in a variable. But you would have to be careful because with 60 characters, you're going to run out of formatting space very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Duration, fixed value, so that is the number of seconds that the banner will stay on the screen. And message to send on close. So you could have the variable up for 30 seconds, and then at the end of 30 seconds, then a timer begins or something. That way you're not starting those things as soon as the banner shows up. You give people time to breathe if you want. Display
if you want to.
Yeah, display variable on HUD. So this allows us to change whether variables are showing up or not. So like our lives counter shows up as soon as we start the game, but we could have that not display until they pick up the sword. Like we could have that variable be default to be off, and then only once like the game actually gets going, then it shows the lives. Or any other thing. You could have variables that only show up when you change them, and then you hide them after a certain amount of time. And then a pop-up window. You can do a title and text for a pop-up window. And I think we have one. Is this an asker or is this a pop-up? Trigger volume, health, drop. Wait, what did I select multiple of? Oh, okay, it is an asker. But in theory, you could have this be a banner pop-up, which I think would look something like that. Let's set a pop-up and
Yes.
see what it looks like, because I'm not sure if I think I've seen one, but I don't remember what it looks like off the top of my head. So game rules, pop-up window, message, we're gonna say A1, title, pop-up, question mark, lots of dots. And then this is a description. I wonder.
I do the exact same thing when I'm exploring things. I use the title of whatever I'm doing in the areas if I don't understand exactly where something is going. That way, when it pops up, no pun intended, I know exactly what went where and how it went there. As Alex types in Latin.
This is what I remember of it. This looks like it can fit a lot. Let's max it out. Okay, it appears to be maxed. All right, so A1 is going to send that, and we are going to interact with the car. That's going to send A1 to the rules. Oops. Message broadcaster, A1 goes to rules. We interact and play.
Collect the sword. Oh, wow.
Okay, so maybe you don't want to use all the characters in the description because it looks like it's height limited.
Maybe not. And just take a little bit out of there. You know,
yeah.
Trim the fat, as they say.
Yeah, we probably don't need all those.
Maybe. Who's to say?
Hey, there we go. So this is maybe players will read it then. So interesting thing, this doesn't close with the E key.
You have to click OK?
You have to actually use the mouse and click OK.
Oh.
So if you want the players to actually read something, the pop-up might be a better option.
I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, askers are still going to be indispensable, but the pop-up will be a good way to force a player to have to use the mouse and interact with something. Good place to put like your warning messages if you be like, hey, there's a seizure warning because we have flashing lights in this, or hey,
good call.
There's some language in this. Maybe you want to play this without the kiddos or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Or warning,
dig it.
This is a high-level area. You could get a game over and have to start from the beginning if you're not prepared to fight a level 99 magma golem or whatever.
Ooh. They got big belly buttons, I hear.
The glowiest belly buttons.
I'm quite proud.
All right, and that is all the rules. So
is that all of them?
That was all of them.
Oh my.
Yeah. So there's I think more behaviors than there are rules, but what you can do with the rules is so freaking powerful. And
Diverse and complex.
the way they connect with um, presets and behaviors, we're going to be able to do a lot. So before next week, before next Wednesday, I'm going to try to figure out a good system to have the grass get cut and then send something through the rule system to go, should I drop a heart or nah? And we'll see if it works. If the health what should we call it? If the argument on sending the death message is not working, I don't know if I'll have an efficient way to do it. Although I don't think I really need to use that. More, my thought is it going to be efficient enough to like spawn a logic donut? Because I think what I can do, it's really not that hard for the game to spawn the hearts in the first place. Like
Yeah.
if I run up and I just start hitting the grass, like the game had no problem spawning these hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really a matter of it being optimization for the sake of the heart spawning. It's more of an issue of just that's too many hearts. The hearts are meaningless if every single blade of grass will drop one. It makes the game too easy. So what you unless you want to do like a Minecraft thing and have it drop wheat and then bake bread with it or something.
Love
But
bread.
if you want it to be more Legend of Zelda style, you swipe at it and it drops a heart, then I would probably have it drop a logic donut that acts as a spawner and have whether it spawns a heart or not be a random function. So killing the grass drops a logic donut, and the logic donut goes, do they get a heart or not, with some
Give a
random roll.
1% chance of getting it.
Yeah. Maybe like 5%. Because then they have to go and like cut 20 blades of grass before they have a chance of getting one heart. And there's not too much grass in this game. But yeah, those are the numbers you can always adjust for balancing. Like this is why it's important to play test. You have a bunch of people play your game, and you go, nobody ever got a game over. They always had full health. I wonder why. Or
could you have a easy, medium, and hard, where easy, the probability of getting the hearts is 90%, and then easy or medium, it's 50%, and hard, it's 1%? Or could you do something like that?
Yeah, that would be where we would define the range. So we could either have the random roll be consistent and define the range that lets a heart drop. Or we make the range variable and have the roll be the roll min max values change. And it's really I see it as being like half of one, a dozen of the other, as my grandmother would like to say. It's a half a
6 of one, half a dozen of another.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't think it really matters, as long as you know what you're trying to do when you set it up, because it's not a big difference math wise. It's just which side you're making the change on, and it could be made. There are other factors that could dictate what you want to do with that. But as far as just this grass system goes, I don't think it makes a difference. But yeah, so we could definitely have a thing at the start of the game that says, hey, do you want easy, medium, or hard mode? Easy could be max number of hearts dropping, max and 5 lives. Medium could be fewer hearts dropping and 3 lives, and hard could be 2 lives and no hearts dropping. Can we do a random roll for a verbal? So yeah, that's the same.
Is that like an audible?
I know that's a football thing. I don't know what it means though.
I don't either.
Oh gosh, sorry. So, what was I saying? For verbal. Yeah. So you can have a message send or not send based on what the role of a random is. Just like we were showing for making like something spawn or not spawn. You can have all those messages change based on what the outcome of a role is. You're going to end up with a lot of different logic donuts, but that's the risk you run when you start making content, is that you have to make things. So
yeah,
if you want to have randomly chosen NPC dialogue, you could totally make like you could make a random NPC dialogue engine where there's like 100 different messages, and when you interact with an NPC, it rolls a random 1 to 100 and plays the message based on that argument.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So I said we were gonna set up variable or random roll stuff today. We touched on a whole bunch of different other things, but I think that gives us a good foundation for talking more about random variables next week. And
Yeah, I think it does too.
Practice a little bit, get some things pre-set up. Yeah. Any last questions, words? Don't forget, tune in Saturday. We're going to be doing the Avenged Sevenfold Game Jam Awards.
It's going to be Panda, Alex, and Lucas. Yeah. It's going to be fun.
All right.
Yeah. Well, no more questions.
I've got a question.
You got a question. Go for it.
Is there anybody we can raid?
Yes, there is. Hodl Hill.
Hey, Hodl's in the Sandbox, in the Game Maker, in VoxEdit.
She is.
I don't know what she's doing.
Playing Season's Greetings.
All right. Well, have fun watching Hodl. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for stopping by.